Buddhism, to have a shrine with literally nothing on it was the norm for several hundred years after the time of the Buddha died. There'd just be in pictures an empty space left, or occasionally they'd put a footprint, or you'd just see a bunch of Buddhist monks around a particular spot where no one was. So I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. When I first walked in the room, I thought, oh, what, no Buddha? And then I thought, no, that's kind of cool. So I'm gone with the flow. Anyway, cross your legs and sit on 2 blocks if you don't mind. That'd be super duper. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. Arms facing up. Oh, sorry, blanket. It's essential. With 2 blocks, you've got to have a blanket. Obviously, there's explanations for everything that I do in yoga, and no explanation for anything I do outside of yoga. So close your eyes, drop your shoulders, rest your seat. Nasally breathe through your nose. So today's class is spontaneously called What No Buddha? Linji famously said, I think it was in, I'm not sure, 11th century, if you see the Buddha in the road, kill him. Linji said that. It doesn't mean, kill someone. It means your conceptualizations of not just the Buddha, but of anything, anyone. So he's just pointing to the empty mind. So here today we've got the empty shrine, just a white cloth where a Buddha sort of could be. And we know that yoga, a clear definition of yoga is emptiness dancing. So it's spontaneous response like a dandelion seed moves in every tiny movement of the air, moves with every tiny movement, as every tiny movement of the air. Similarly, when we're empty, and, I realize even the language, we are empty is, oxymoron really. Because it's not something you can be. So what is it? So here and now, it's a sense of space, a sense of allowing, a sense of peace, a sense of settling, and that's with whatever's going on. You can have body comfort, body discomfort. You can be full of craving or full of contentment or full of aversion or, whatever. So emptiness is the space around whatever's going on, realizing that whatever's going on isn't me or mine. But not as a concept, because that messes a lot of people up. Conceptualizing that, emptiness, conceptualizing that nothing's me or mine. That's a problem. That can be a problem. So we use words like ahimsa, non-violent. We use words like aparigraha, not really grasping. We use words like vahi, flow. We use words like shraddha, confidence, trust. Bring your hands to a prayer position at the heart center. Continue to breathe through your nose if you can. Relax what can be relaxed. And we're going to send 3 bija mantras up through the central channel. If you're practicing at home and other people are asleep in their bedrooms, don't worry about it. They'll wake up to the lovely sound of Om this morning. So we're going to imagine that this Om starts at the pelvic floor and moves up and comes right up out of the crown of the head. And this is a way of clearing the central channel. And the central channel is a way of orientating ourselves towards the middle. And the middle is another way of saying openness or emptiness. So 3 rounds. Let's take a deep breath in for the first. And the last one. And then deep breaths. A few deep breaths. You can feel how these mantra uchara, which is a central part of tantric yoga, from which many of the ideas of hatha yoga are drawn and adapted, sometimes radically different, but with the same names, but often similar concepts are posited, like central channel. Now we're going to just let our pelvis circle subtly without holding the breath as an explorative movement. It's not as a sort of something we're doing to fit in with the group, to be a proper yogi. So, none of that needs to happen, but just relaxed, investigative. So if it wants to change direction, if it wants to move more in a figure of 8 than a circle, if it wants to move more side to side or back to front or any other configuration, as long as the movement is meditative, that is to say, it shows signs of being meditative, such as the breath releasing from the tension created by uncertainty, samshaya, which itself is a product of not being open to the way things are here and now, which is easy because the way things are here and now is the way they are. You don't have to make it or create it or invent it or posit it or think about it. And once your pelvis has started moving intuitively, and the breath is showing that that is intuitive because it's expressive and relaxed, we're going to interlace the fingers, stretch the arms diagonally down, Urdhva Pada Angulyasana Sukhasana. So raising the arms up. Urdhva Pada meaning upwardly bound, Angulya meaning fingers. And still you could utilize movement if you find it useful. And use means useful in absorption, aka meditation. So absorption, meditation. So many of us get caught in the busyness just around the outer edges of the stillness that is emptiness, that is the center of our experience. Just around, circulating around our habits, tendencies, conditioned behaviors, societal triggers, on and on. And so this movement is softening our grip, or our tendency to grasp this or push away that. We have to do that physically. I was enjoying a conversation with a soon-to-be ordained Vajrayana Buddhist yesterday, and he was telling me about his lineage, very, very interesting lineage, which goes all the way back to the consort of Padmasambhava, and various movement practices that they do that are done to usurp the habit tendencies. I wanted to know more about these, but unfortunately, a Kali broke out. I was at a wedding. It wasn't just a random Kali. I was at a wedding. Okay, big wide circle. Anyway, we'll have another chat another time, I'm sure. Take deep breaths, palms facing up. Hopefully the breaths are expressive. and spontaneous and natural. Great. We're going to change the cross of the legs very, very simply. So take the blanket out, put it back in once you've changed the cross of the legs. The blanket does have a purpose. Obviously, it brings a certain aesthetic mood. It's like a sort of scarf, but for the lower half of the body. But that's not the real reason it's there. It's there to act as a brake to stop the legs traveling ad infinitum. The reason we don't want the legs to, we want them to travel, but not ad infinitum, is when they travel, they pull the pelvis forwards. If they travel ad infinitum, they pull it too far forwards. And then you'll find you're trying to compensate with other muscles of the back. So what we want the spine to be is upright and light, and the breath to follow. So tune in through any movements that help you, left, right, forwards, backwards. So tuning in is tuning out. I was pleased to remember the other day when I was on I remember being on my first teacher training that I did, which was in April 1992 in Kathmandu. And some of you might have heard me mention this the other day, but I was there with a lot of Canadian women. It was just me, my partner Miranda, and a lot of Canadian women. That's what it was. And the Canadian women were pretty nice, but less into it than I was. They did quite a lot of shopping, I remember, in Kathmandu. And they said to Sushil Bhattacharya, I don't know why they prompted them to say this, but they said, well, Jim's pretty spaced out about me. And Sushil jumped to my defense and said, no, Jim's pretty spaced in, he said. And I thought, well, that's really, really useful. I only thought that like last week, that's really, really useful. So it took me 32 years to find the utility in that. But anyway, I have now. So that's what it's like. You're tuning in a way that you could compare with being spaced out, in that it's very, very absorbing, that you disappear into it. But being spaced out is not, it is conjecture. You're kind of unaware of the present physical sensations. So being spaced in, you use physical movement, which we are doing now, to absorb ourselves, like water being absorbed into a cloth as you move the cloth on the water to some clean water soaked up. Use a clean cloth and you wipe the clean water with a clean cloth, and there's no water left external to the cloth. It's all absorbed. So this is the spaced in that movement's helping us with. And the movement has to be unrestricted or unlimited by, the style of yoga that you're doing, or any social pressure or pressure that you unconsciously put on yourself. So personally, these kind of subtle movements, I could do them for quite a long while. It's tuning out of the busy, tuning in to the goddess, which just means the whole moment. But we're going to, instead of continuing that, we'll continue the vibe of that by placing the right fingers onto the floor, fingertips, and raising the left arm up. And then just walking your fingers over as you turn and stretch the body. So it's a twist and a side stretch. Don't hold your breath unless you don't want to know what yoga is. Let go of the breath if you do want to know what yoga is. You can sing that to that soft rock song, I want to know what love is, but with yoga if you want, although now you have no choice probably, and I'm sorry for superimposing that. Come down to the other side, fingertips, raise up, turn, stretch up and over. If there's any difficulty raising your arm, of course, you can do this simply with the fingertips on the floor, or even just simply the twist part. Don't hold the breath. If you want to know what yoga is. Okay. Well, we're done. Sorry to mention soft rock this time of day. Palms up, deep breaths. Jaw soft. So when you really understand yoga, then each pose is an opportunity that to disappear and reappear, which is one of the names of the Buddha, isn't it? One of the epithets of the Buddha is Tathagata, which means disappeared, reappeared. At the moment, he's just disappeared. Okay, wiggle the fingers and put your blankets to one side. And we're going to lay on the blocks. The pelvis is going to come onto the blocks. I guess if you find that's too hard, you could use the blanket on there. So it's the pelvis that's on the blocks. The toes are tucked under. We're resting on our forearms, and we can just stretch the groins back by stretching the heels back. If you stretch a heel back, the leg will lift a little, and you'll be able to stretch the thigh back. And breathing through the nose, a little movement side to side can help massage any tension in your back. And making sure you don't hold the breath is very, very important, as already mentioned. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft. So we're just moving the pelvis side to side just to ease off any tensions in the back. Massaging the back muscles. So the first thing, I've mentioned this before, that we need to do before we practice emptiness dancing is to empty. It's the same as the metaphor of the person with the canoe who hasn't untied it yet and tries to paddle off. Doing yoga poses still full of conditioning means that they're not really yoga. They're just an appendage to conditioning. You might just even deepen your own conditioning that way. Some scars might even go deeper. So, we're moving to empty out. And I hope you can feel potential to massage your back muscles and release any tension. Now we're going to lower the knees and bring the hands to the sides and lower the chest and the chin. And obviously adjust and readjust until your chest feels comfortable, and breathe easy. So this is the 8-point posture. And the 8-point posture is something we do find in a tantric milieu. We find this mentioned in the tantric genre, and that is because it indicates a point of surrender, a point of touching the earth, breathing calmly. I'm pretty sure I've said it before, it's all about the breath. Now from here, push up and into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now for some people, and this isn't for everybody, but for some people, the blocks can be used for the crown of the head to rest on. And obviously you can move the blocks if that is the case, if they're close enough. Really the thing about the crown of the head is that we're not using it as a sort of fifth limb, as it were, to rest weight onto, but instead we're extending up to the groin. And it's a release down. So if your head touches a block or blocks, it's released down to them rather than leaning on them. It's not leaning. And so in other words, every so often reiterate a stretch that goes up through your armpits, up through your ribs, up through your groins. And remember, this is for the crown of your head if you're using it. You don't have to use it. It's only if your head comes to it. We're not forcing the issue. And it may be that you want one block instead of two, or 3 blocks instead of 2. So that, over the years, there's been reactions around down face dog, for example, when you look in the light on yoga, used to be Iyengar's head is on the floor, and then there was a sort of kickback reaction about that because people started doing it by collapsing their arms, but that's not what he's doing in the book. He's extending up, and then there's a release down, It's not about collapse. Okay, well done, everyone. That could be explored further, but we'll come down to kneeling, regular kneeling. Breathe through your nose, one hand on top of the other. Use the blocks or block between the heels and buttocks if your knees are tight. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft. So 2, 3, 4 or more deep breaths. And please allow a little rolling on your shins with the jaw soft, with the eyes soft. Yeah, if you do find you're slipping on your mat, I found the other non-slippy ones. So those blue ones, the dark blue ones are a bit slippy. Just rolling, rolling, rolling on the shins. As each decade slips by, I find that I like a little bit more comfort in my life. And so, presuming that 1, 2, 3, 4 or more decades have slipped by for you as well, and you might also like a bit more comfort, let's take a blanket right now and put it down on our mats for the comfort that I know you enjoy and deserve. For example, when I go camping, I've got quite a good camp bed thing now, whereas before I'd buy any old thing from Millets, but now I insist I've got to have a more comfy one. I bring my own pillow from home, and even then I still moan and complain. So laying on your tummy, 2 blocks ahead of you, I'm going to have the 2 blocks for the 2 hands upright on their ends. And we're going to extend our tums. So extend your tummy once you're laying on your support by bringing your forearms on the floor and stretching your tummy side to side. And it's not just about the tummy, of course, it's about the back. Why is the tummy connected to the back? Because as you stretch your toned tum, it will pull on the front of the pelvis, lengthening your lower back by drawing the back of the pelvis just a little down. And so your quadratus lumborum and other muscles can get and lengthened like that. I could do that stretching for ages. I find it very, very interesting, stretching the deep belly and absorbing. But we're going to also stretch the legs back with the thighs facing straight down. And then our hands come to said blocks. Keep turning your thighs to face straight down. So lift and land them a few times and breathe through your nose. Don't hold the breath. Yes, the buttocks and hamstrings are now working as you raise your legs up, but there are some fibers of the gluteus maximus that are external rotators, and we don't want to switch those on. So one simple way of saying is don't squeeze the buttocks towards each other. They're toned individually. And you just keep breathing into it. You can press into the blocks. You're toning your thighs and reminding yourself perhaps many times to not turn the heels in, pressing down. Whatever foot position makes your back feel best, you go for that. It could well be that plantar flexion, pointing your toe, like a ballet dancer. Okay, well done. Come down. Rest one hand on top of the other. Rest your head on the hands and deep breathe. Take 3 deliberately deep breaths. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft. Really let the lower back relax. Really let the lower back relax. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft. Place your hands by your mid-rib cage. Mid-rib cage. Fingers facing forwards. Lift everything except your hands and feet. Well, in fact, if you can lift your hands and feet as well, feel free to do that because that means you're flying. You don't want to hold anyone back who can fly. Lift your chest up, tone your tummy, Jaw soft. This is Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. So concentrate on drawing the tummy in and up, finding stability at the, what's sometimes called the mouth of the central channel, which is the pelvic floor. Stability there. So we're talking between the tailbone and the pubic bone. Stability, sort of calmness, but is also stable. Well done. Drop to the knees. Come to hands and knees. Take 3 deep breaths. Let them be expressive. Let them be honest. Let them be natural. Expressive, honest, natural. Make sure you're within reach of your purple blocks and get yourself comfortable. So wagging your tail sometimes is pleasant and useful. Keeping a little tone in the tummy, circling the pelvis, whatever works for you. And we're going to extend one arm to the block and the other leg out. And breathe through the nose. And obviously, Lila Artha Lakshana, as it's Vajrasati Yoga, we know that these 3 pointers, we find them very, very helpful. Lila, play. So that's investigative play because it has a purpose. Artha means purpose. And that purpose is absorption. So the way we move the body, it only has to be the way that is absorbing. It's like fascinating. It takes, beyond thinking, unmani. So the block that is under your hand, you can tilt it if you want, or, the leg that's raised, you can play with that if you want, any way that you want. But it's all about meditation in the present, which is absorption beyond thinking. So if it's beyond thinking, it's beyond doubt, which is why doubt is listed as one of the 9 obstacles to yoga in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. If you want, you can try bending the leg and releasing your hand from the block and taking hold. It's quite exciting, for me anyway. I don't get out much, although I did go to a wedding. It was lovely, actually. Catherine and Gavin's wedding. What a beautiful thing that was. Good Lord. It's like going to Rivendell. It was like a lot of elves were there. It was marvelous. Out in the woods. Jaw soft, eyes soft, light tongue in the tongue. Okay, coming back to hands and knees. Let's hear a deep breath. And another, and another, and another. And another, and another, and another. And when you're ready, the other arm obviously goes forwards, and the other leg. So this is a version of Vyagrasana. Vyagra meaning tiger. And so playing, investigating. The play has a purpose. Lila has an artha. Play has a purpose. And the purpose is absorption. So it's pretty clear that the way you move is absorbing or reabsorbing, like water being soaked up into a clean cloth. So your movements are to soak you up into the interdependent moment, which is where everything is everything. Body, brain, breath, universe. Your muscle is the same as breath, or interdependent to the point we can call them the same. This is sort of oneness, unity. But it's not the concept of unity, it's the direct here and now experience that your breath and your emotions and your body and your environment are one thing. And physicists and biologists will agree. Okay, when you're ready, if you want, you can try taking hold of the opposite leg. Don't try to take hold of the same leg. That would definitely lead to disaster. Breathe through the nose. And meditate, so it's like it's a deeply metaphor. Metta is a Pali word. Maitri is the Sanskrit. Kindness, love, and openness. Good job, everyone. Back to hands and knees, please. Catch your breath. Deep, honest, natural breath or breaths. Moving your pelvis investigatively with awareness. Bring the foot that's furthest away from me into the place of the hand that's furthest away from me. Moving the hand out of the way and to the side, and then lifting the back knee and landing it, so tucking the toes under several times. So you can feel your massaging, therefore melting. Melting body tissue is the same as melting views and opinions and attachments. Things we get stuck on. We're not against any emotion or any thought. It's not that we should have these thoughts rather than those thoughts, or these emotions rather. This is all allowed. And that's just the point. It's all allowed. And then when it's all allowed, it flows, because that's the way things are. This moment is a flow. And your emotions, in inverted commas, your emotions, are part of everything else. They're not in some sort of vacuum separated off. Your thoughts are part of everything else. Your physical sensations are part of everything else. Climb up onto your leg if you're ready with your hands. Obviously, adjust and readjust your knee. Hopefully the blanket's giving you a little bit more comfort. Lightly tone the tongue. Breathe through your nose if you can. Raise the arms up from the hip joints, making sure the roots of the neck are soft. Lightly toning the tummy is a sort of beautiful reiterative aspect of the meditation that is holistic. So keep that breath going. A meditation that is holistic. So instead of all these labels, good person, bad person, somebody's daughter, somebody's mother, somebody's sister, somebody's brother, instead of all these labels, you return to source. It's like giving yourself back. To the label-less. Coming forwards. Back to hands and knees, please. Take a deep breath. Or 5, or 4, or 6. So just let the breath come and go. Breaths come and go. Again, feel absolutely free to move the pelvis any way that works for you. And when ready, forwards comes the other foot, similarly. And breathing easy, playing with it. You can lift the back knee, you can land it. Those kind of movements are very, very helpful in terms of the meditation. And the meditation, which is reabsorption into interdependence, which is the baseline of reality, is that it's interdependent. Conditions spontaneous, intelligent response. It doesn't need book learning. It doesn't need you to sort of remember facts. It's the same intelligent response that can arise during childbirth, or can arise during dancing, or can arise, in anything where you feel given to the moment fully, totally. Then you return to your true power. And of course, there are several aspects of this true Shakti or power. Climb up onto your leg if you're ready. Feel free to go back to hands and knees if you need to reiterate the landing position of your back knee. Tone the tum, so draw it in and up. Beautiful. And then raise your arms up. Keeping that tummy tone, breathing through the nose, meditative, investigative, surrendered. Anytime we make a label, it's binary, so its opposite becomes true at the same time. And getting involved in binaries, in divisions, is forgetting the mother, forgetting the source. And as soon as you're disassociated from the mother field, then all kinds of vulnerabilities can manifest. But when you return, then there's no doubt, you're not subject to any gaslighting, whether it be from politicians who probably are all about to start some gaslighting, or, you know, people, other people. Okay, well done. Come down, nice and easy. Back to hands and knees, please. Catch your breath, wag your tail. If you want, breathe easy through your nose. Well done. Stretching your legs out along the blanket. And for me, this next pose, which is Paschimottanasana, by the way, I always like to be on a blanket for this because I think some slippage is useful. You can also be on blocks, or on a block, or two even, if you find that your pelvis inclines backwards like this. Then the block can just help lift you up. So we want our starting point to be an upright pelvis. And if that's difficult without a block, well, that's what the blocks are there for, to help. You might also need a belt as well. It depends on whether or not your pelvis can tilt beyond 30 degrees and whether or not your legs are incredibly long and your arms are very, very short. Because if your legs are very, very long and your arms are short, it's like, oh, where are my feet? They're miles away. So if you don't think you can reach your feet easily, then use a belt now, which you can bring around the balls of the feet, which I'm miming. Okay. And whether you're using a belt or holding the feet directly, you pull and lift up. So looks like people haven't got no belts. You ain't got no belts? Couldn't find the belts? I'll go and find you some. At home, just carry on. I don't know how that was for people at home, whether it was like one of those Annika Rice things. You could hear me running around. Anyway, I hope you've got the belt around the balls of your feet at home, and you're about to here at the BBC, not the British Broadcasting Corporation, but the Brighton Buddhist Centre. So discipline in yoga is a discipline to really listen. So as you pull on the belt or feet, open up the central channel. And that takes a lot of discipline. To be that honest. That's why Patanjali emphasizes honesty, satya, as an essential yoga practice. You can move left and right if you find that useful. Your breath, if the practice is going as it should, will open up because you're beginning to melt tensions that themselves are expressions of tensions driven by doubt. And doubt, of course, is a byproduct of not being absorbed in the way things are. If you don't know the way things are, then you have doubt and you're susceptible to people telling you that it's like this or like that. So keep breathing, meditating, breathing, meditating. The thigh bones drop out of the way of the pelvis. So there's two issues really in Paschimottanasana. One is tensile. So tensions held in muscles. And that is aided through movement and breath. And psychological or attitudinal shifts. And the other issue that comes later after some tensile resistance is gone is compressive. As one comes forwards, one might find one's tummy or one's pelvis, something pressing onto something and limiting the further movement. So you have to then imagine and feel the thigh bones are dropping out of the way. which is a meditation. I think Paschimottanasana, also known as Ukrasana, also known as Brahmacharyasana, is one of the most profound poses you can practice. It's so total. You really feel it along the soles of the feet, the calves, the thighs, the buttocks, the lower back, thoracic spine, cervical spine, the neck, even right across to your forehead. That it really asks a total release. It says, there's nothing to hold. It gives you an invitation. And the right thing to do is to accept that invitation. There's nothing you need to hold. Okay. Lead with the chest. Come up and then come off your block and lay down on your back. Keep your belt nearby. Keep your belt nearby. And if your head tips back, use a block under your head. We've got this highly luxurious class going on with a lot of blanket action today. It's marvelous, very treaty. We can put our hands behind our head as if we're on some sort of super duper holiday. And breathing through the nose. The shrine's quite tropical today. I guess you could almost imagine you're on a super duper holiday somewhere tropical. Deep breaths, relax lumbar, relax neck. Deep scapula. Breathing easy. Raise your feet up off the floor until your lower back rests on the floor. Soften inside the knees. If you can visualize, that is a psychophysical. We've discussed, haven't we, before, how if one thing is to release, all things must release. The mind has to release for the body to release. The breath has to release for the mind to release. And in a sense, the universe has to release for the mind to release, because the mind is attached to holding what it believes that things are, the way we believe things to be. People, our lives, what's going to happen, which, nobody knows, not even, someone with a crystal ball. Lift up your head, breathe through your nose, lower back close to the floor. And this is a meditation on the lower back and the breath. Some people like to really curl up, even lifting the pelvis. You can if you want. The hands can change position if you find it more comfortable, higher or lower. And then uncrunch, if that's a word, head down, toes only down, tonally, and then crunch up again, s'il vous plaît. Again, let's avoid yanking on the neck. Let's make this an abdominal imprint. And then coming down nice and slow, tonally, toes only. Breathe through your nose. Turn it into a meditation by feeling all the subtle nuance. Up again, head and toes. Same emphasis on no yanking on the neck. And down again. This time heels as well, and then a deep, deep breath. Followed by another and another and another. So what makes you a yogi is your ability, your willingness to accept the invitations that are given to you throughout your yoga class, and you accept or reject invitations through the breath. And there's no middle place like, I'll think about it. That's a rejection. So we need to learn to have confidence in emptiness, which, as you know from your own experience, you've had moments when you've forgotten yourself, you've been empty, as it were, and then you know your place in the universe or as the universe. You know your true identity without a label. You just know who you are and what this all is. Flex up again. Open the angle at the back of your knees to 90 degrees, please. Imagine the soles of your feet were against a wall that were 90 degrees relative to the floor. So the soles of your feet are against a wall, like the walls in the building here, 90 degrees to the floor. Lift your head up, and we're going to turn towards this big Buddha picture, elbow to knee, knee to elbow, or towards, I should say. Not to, but towards. And then similarly, the other direction. Repeating again on the first direction, but extending and retracting meditatively the other leg. Remember, meditatively means absorbing the other way when you're ready. Similarly. Good job, everyone. Return to center, head down, feet down. Let's hear that deep breath. Yeah, let a few of them happen. The real skilled yogin is someone who lets her breath happen. She lets her breath happen. She allows it. It's, the whole process of yoga is one big yes, or in Sanskrit, om. One big yes. So staying with that one big yes, if you wouldn't mind taking your belt now, I'd be very, very grateful. And if you wouldn't mind lassoing, if that's not the wrong word, it is the wrong word, but anyway, it's the best I've got, around your front shins with your belt. Make sure your head and shoulders are on your blanket. I don't work for the shampoo company. I've said it a lot of times, but never been sponsored by Head and Shoulders. Breathe through your nose. Probably would have cleared the mortgage by now if I had been sponsored by Head and Shoulders. I've said it 3 times in just the last 2 minutes. Keep your heels close to your bum. Lightly tone your tummy so it draws in and up, kind of wave. And hopefully you'll feel, it's hard to describe, isn't it? But some aliveness at the pelvic floor that's definitely steady. It's it's buoyant. I've called it buoyant before. It sort of nudges, it's just nudging the energy into the central channel. And then we're going to lift up, staying with that intelligence at the pelvic floor. We're going to lift the bum, still holding the belt. How high is up to you. You can move your knees side to side or pelvis side to side to work with flow, which is our priority in yoga. Flow, vahi. So there's an awful lot of yoga called flow yoga, vinyasa flow, hatha flow, probably other kind of flow, which themselves have come out of Ashtanga vinyasa, which, is not an ancient practice. Obviously Ashtanga is, but Ashtanga vinyasa is not ancient. Doesn't mean that it's not great or good or useful. Yoga has continuously evolved over time. But the emphasis on flow is ancient. Absolutely. So that's something, can be incorporated into any style. As you're coming further up, or if you're coming further up, twist the belt outwardly. This is an option. You don't have to come further up. We don't want to put undue pressure through the discs in the neck. So either not coming too high up or very strongly externally rotating the arms and bringing yourself into a position where the spine at the back is deep. It's not sort of collapsed towards the floor, it's deep. That acts in a way to keep the anterior, the front of the spine, more open. Well done, gang. Come down slowly. Obviously, internally rotating your arms, letting your shoulder blades drift away, walking your feet a little bit away from your bum, taking a deep breath or 2 or 3. It's all about the breath. So really letting the breath happen through deep breaths. Release tensions from your neck. Release tensions from your breath. Release tensions from your back. Release tensions from the mind. It's better off empty. Sometimes we think, oh, maybe if I'm prepared, yesterday something happened, X, Y, Z happened. So today, if X, Y, and Z happen, I'll be ready. But today, A, B, and C will probably happen, not X, Y, and Z, if you get my meaning. Take your yoga strap, bring it around the balls of the feet, keeping yourself a little curled up for a moment, and extending the legs straight up. Urdhva Prasrita Padasana. If you're a yoga teacher or yoga teacher trainer, make sure you at least internally repeat the names of the pose if you're practicing the pronunciation. Urdhva Prasrita Padasana. Now you can pad your feet into your belt if you like, a bit like a cat. So sometimes you might do that alternately, one foot pushing while the other pulls back, or you might do it both together. But the point is exactly the same point as why a cat pads its paws, which is difficult. You mustn't take personally, because when they ruin your furniture or clothing, it's not, I don't think anyway, they've got anything against you. Although now I'm a little bit suspicious. But mostly they're doing it just to arrive. They can't really settle. Cats can't settle without padding. I find it very, very difficult to settle. So that's why you're padding to arrive. Right. Kind of tune out of things and tune into this. Just like that Buddhist that I met, his name is Nick actually, who's about to be ordained, practicing his various Vajrayana Tibetan yogas, and one of them to usurp the mind's tendency to grip and grasp. So this is he's following one of the only female-led lineages in Tibetan culture, which goes right back to Yeshe Songgyal, who was one of the consorts of Padmasambhava and a great yogini, so her tradition still lives on. But some of her practices involve movements that negate gripping tendencies. Now we're going to release one foot and keep the other one in the strap. Hold that strap up firm towards your foot so your arms are straight, and then extend the other leg out to about 45 degrees before lowering it all the way meditatively to the floor, keeping the inner groin long, breathing through your nose, softening the jaw and neck. Deep natural breaths, investigative awareness. Okay, bring that leg back up into the strap, into the pata. Take 3 deep breaths. Really, like giving yourself to the spontaneity. Releasing the other foot and then walking up the strap. Extending to about 45 degrees relative to the floor before lowering all the way to the floor, keeping the lower back meditative. This is, of course, Supta Padangushtasana Ekam. Supta Padangushtasana. Relax the neck. Oh. Bring the leg back into the belt. Let me hear a deep breath. Followed by another, and another, and another. Yoga is just one big yes. Yes. Not yes to anything in particular, because that causes division. You say yes to this, you're saying no to that, right? But yes to the flow of the moment, which is within and without, as George Harrison famously said on his marvelous song on Sergeant Pepper's. Release your legs, hug your legs, roll around a bit. Use movement as a meditation. And when you feel you've rolled around to your heart's content, then we're going to bring ourselves straight into Shavasana. And you can stay on your blankets if you're in the room, because I'm going to bring you another one. At home, I can't, I'm sorry. I wish I could, like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where you could pass chocolate down. But if you remember correctly, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it had to be an enormous bar of chocolate because it became very, very small once it was transmitted through the television. So I can't transmit one of these blankets because I'd have to have an enormous one, even if it was possible. But I can in the room. So once you're laying down, make sure your arms are suitably wide, really good distance, and scooted under as well. And in that way, the chest will be buoyant in the pose. The eyes, of course, are closed. And the eyelids covering the eyeballs help them to settle. And even we feel a release going right the way through the optic nerve to the back of the brain, back of the skull. And it's the back of the skull where we rest our attention. Just rest our attention in the back of the skull. Fully rested in the back of the skull. all your fingers and toes to feel into the body. And bend your legs and place the soles of the feet onto the floor. Scoot the buttocks under, take a deliberately deep breath. Let the lower back go. And then roll onto your side, facing away from this side of the room. Knees drawn up. Roll again when you're ready. Bring yourself up nice and easy from the side, using your arms to assist your ascent. And sitting, facing towards the shrine. What? No Buddha? The white cloth with no Buddha. Obviously, there is a big picture. Bring your hands to prayer and Om your ascent if you ascend to this, if you agree to this. May any benefit that we've gained interacting in this way be shared for the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thanks, Zoomers. Really lovely to have you here. Thanks, Zoomers. You're fantastic. Thank you. Love and peace, dude. Love you so much. Thanks for coming.